One of the important pieces of legislation to come out of this committee this year was the Small Business Fairness in Contracting Act, which I was very proud to sponsor and which had overwhelming bipartisan support from the committee as a whole and on the House floor, where it passed with 409 votes. And the chairwoman and ranking member Shabbat were both co-sponsors of that legislation. So my question for the entire panel is, are you aware of the requirements of the act, and what, if anything, are your agencies doing to prepare for it in the event that the President signs it into law?
I am not.
I know that there are several portions, and yes, we are aware of the act, and our Chief Acquisition Officer is working on a plan. One of the clauses, or whatever you want to call it, in the plan is, of course, the anti-bundling, and we at GSA, and I in particular, are very proactive in trying to prevent anti-bundling, because it is probably one of the hardest things as a small business to try to perform on these really huge contracts. And I might add that that is one of the initiatives that we're working on, because one of the ways that we can prevent the tendency to bundle is to make our contracting officers comfortable with taking the risk and making those awards to small businesses, and knowing that they can provide those goods and services, that they have that ability to excel. And that's one of the things that we're working on, is to provide that guidance to our contracting officers so that they will give those small businesses a chance. And you missed my earlier statement, but I said I actually think that it's terrific. The small women-owned business clauses in it. We also have a group that's working on trying to make opportunities available to women-owned businesses. We're working on how do we handle mid-sized business opportunities. So yes, we're aware of it. We look forward to working with the committee on all the many aspects of this legislation.
Administrator Doan, can we take it from that testimony then that you would be on record as supporting the anti-bundling provisions of the Small Business Fairness in Contracting Act?
There are actually, when I was looking at it the other evening, there's like about 4 or 5 different clauses or phrases or caveats in it. And what we are doing at GSA is trying as hard as possible to develop our approach to each one of these. The ones that we can support, we obviously will. I will tell you that there are some challenges with it, in that we have to balance this with the need to respond to other congressional requirements and other statutes. For example, enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture in and of itself is in a way a sort of bundling, because they're saying that you have to have one platform, one performer in a particular area. So, but those are things that we would look forward to working with the committee on, trying to redefine and find ways to make these opportunities available to small business.
But can we take it from your testimony that you, at least in concept, support the idea of eliminating bundling obstacles that prevent small businesses from getting their fair share of the federal pie?
As much as possible, whenever something comes over my desk that I have actually seen that implies that there's bundling involved, I usually say no.
Thank you.
Sir, I am aware of the Fairness in Contracting Act, and I would agree with your statement that we want to make sure we've removed the obstacles. And so, in your words, eliminating the bundling obstacles, we are in agreement with that.
Mr. Finley?
Sir, I would reiterate that we would very much like to work with the committee on this. I personally have not reviewed the language. Bundling is something that we are opposed to, and from an acquisition strategy, we do everything we can to avoid it. But we'd very much like to work, closely with the committee and perhaps yourself to better define what the concerns would be, if any, and work together to find a way out so when it became law, we could implement it right away.
Mr. Preston?
Yeah, I think the big issue for us is how to support the people at the table as effectively as possible. And it's going to require us to really redouble our focus in ensuring that they see the right small businesses, that we see all the contracts that are available for small business and work our network. So in some ways, I think it's going to up our workload, but that's a good thing because I think it'll intensify people's focus on the small business needs, and it'll give us an opportunity to be in the middle of that process.
Administrator Hankey?
Sir, I'm not familiar with the details of the legislation you cited, but VA has a very proactive effort to reduce contract bundling. The FAR requires that we review every action that's $2 million or above. At VA, we've cut that threshold in half. We review every action over $1 million. And since '04, we've reviewed over 1,000 contract actions and returned about 20% of those back to the acquisition professionals to say this effort needs to be unbundled. So we take that effort very seriously.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.